Lorraine Jordan, welcome to the Visionary Life podcast. You are one of our first guests of season 12, and I'm always so excited when I ask the people that I trust the most, and I say, hey, do you have anyone to recommend for the podcast as we get into recording this next season? And one of my favorite couples, Blake and Emily, they recommended that I go check out your work and see if it might be a fit for the show. And as soon as I got into it, I was like, whoa, Lorraine is amazing. How have I not met her before? So I cannot wait to introduce you to the audience. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. Yes, Blake and Emily are amazing people. And it's funny that 3 degrees of separation, right? Every time somebody introduces, like he reached out the other day and said, "Hey, thank you so much for introducing me to Sean. That started off a couple of years ago, and I just need to tell you, like, it just keeps growing and developing." And he goes, "Thanks for the intro." And I'm like, "Oh, of course." Like I could see the match. So it's so cool. Yeah, I agree when that starts to happen and who each other knows and just bringing those circles closer together. So happy to be here and happy to get to know you more as well.
So excited for that. And I love recording our very first conversation. Sometimes I'm like, I'm meeting someone at the first time as the guests are also meeting them. So that's really cool. And you know what that reminds me of too is that it's so powerful to make connections when you know awesome people. So for somebody to go out of their way to say, Lorraine, you might love my friend Sarah. You guys have so much in common. You should get to know each other. Sometimes I have to remind myself that that's one of the best gifts you can give people is to make introductions when you see a synergy in their work, right?
And sometimes it's that you don't even know exactly why. There's that
Yeah.
nudge that's like, I don't know what it is, but I need to introduce you to so and so because there's that just keeps coming to mind. And every time I've done that, it's been super exciting to hear the outcome afterwards. So
Absolutely. So I want to rewind back and I want to go back to your very first job or one of your first jobs, which was at a grocery store. And this kind of led you into the world of connection and real estate. Could you just paint us a picture of how that grocery store job was actually quite impactful in launching your career path?
wow, yeah, that's a long time ago. I was like 13 years old. It was a little mom and pop grocery store that, back then the larger stores weren't open late at night, so they weren't open on Sundays. And this place was open till, 9 or 10 o'clock in the summer when it got busier with all the tourists in the area. And it had the meat department, it had a produce department, it had everything happening. And I learned every role. I just really wanted to, I don't know, I was excited. I wanted to learn more and be the best that I could be. Um, I ended up in the meat department in the end. And what happened all the time in the meat department is people would come in on their way home from work and they'd say, "Oh, I don't know what to have for dinner." And they'd look in the case and they go, "Do you have any pork chops?" And the butcher and I used to joke all the time that they'd always ask for whatever it was we didn't have. Here's a whole selection, but do you have any of this? So him and I just started kind of a game, and we would bet that we couldn't sell them something that we had an abundance of. So I didn't cook then. I mean, at the time I was probably 15, 16 years old. And what I would do is he would say, the night before, he'd say, "Tomorrow we need to get rid of, chicken." So the next day I would go into the library and I'd go through magazines and I'd find a recipe for chicken because that was a while ago and the internet didn't exist then. And then I would go into the office and I'd convince the admin to photocopy them for me. And I would go to work and I would get there, I'd arrive early and I would do these little meal packages that went with the recipe. So when people walked in, they'd go, "I don't know what to have." I'd say, "Hey, here's a recipe for you. Here's all the ingredients. Have you ever tried chicken cacciatore?" And it just took off. It went like viral. I mean, I guess it's like Hello Fresh, but a long time ago. I wish I would have done something more with it. But people would just start walking in and they'd say, "What's for dinner, Lorraine?" And I'd go, "Tonight you're having beef stroganoff," or whatever recipe it was that I found that, basically won me the contest with the butcher as far as, selling whatever it was that we decided that day. So
Love
it
it.
started that way, and people were like, "Holy cow, like you're so good at sales. You need to get into this. And then somebody said you should get into real estate. And the rest is history. I was a full-time real estate professional by the age of 18.
Mm-hmm. Did you realize, like, at the time how gifted you were as a 13-year-old in being a salesperson, being someone who could, like, make fun out of a suggestion? Or did this just come naturally to you? I'm curious, were you aware of these talents? Because I think that's quite remarkable that you were willing to, like, flip through recipes and be like, I'm hungry for a challenge. I can provide solutions to our customers. It's so entrepreneurial of you.
I mean, I have 4 children, so when they all got to that age, I was thinking like, how do I, keep them going in this mindset? And I realized, first of all, you can't light someone else's fire, right? People have to find their own fire, what drives them, what inspires them, what motivates them. For me, I've always been someone that solves problems. I love the challenge of, like, sales is not, trickery with words. Sales to me is solving people's problems, coming up with solutions that is in their best interest. So I mean, I care deeply about people, so that has always empowered me. But I always saw ideas, and honestly, until maybe 6, 7 years ago, I thought everybody thought the way I do. Right? They
Mhm.
see people, they have a problem, they want to help them, or they see opportunity everywhere. Like, I remember driving with a friend. We were on a road trip on the 401 for a very long time, and we went into the en route. We came back out and we're driving, and I looked over and I said, "What are you thinking about right now?" And she looked at me funny. She goes, "Nothing." And I said, "What do you mean nothing?" She goes, "Like nothing." I said, "Are you thinking about, like driving, where we're going?" And she's like, "No, I'm just driving. I'm not." I'm thinking, whoa, there's people that don't think. Like, what do you mean? Like, I always thought that if you ask somebody, what are you thinking about right now, and they didn't answer you, that maybe it was something bad, or they're
Yep.
thinking about, whatever. They didn't want to admit what they were thinking about. But like, I see opportunity. I went into that en route and I had all these business ideas. Like, I had to write stuff down. I have a section of my phone that's notes. And I mean, it's just filled with different categories and different ideas, because I just see opportunity everywhere
Mhm.
all the time. So
That
maybe I'm
is
different.
such a quality of the entrepreneurial mindset and the entrepreneurial personality type is, like, always thinking, always ideating, always innovating on what's right in front of them. So it's such a funny light bulb moment to be like, oh my gosh, not everybody is like me. Not that that's a bad thing or a good thing. It's just, it's the truth. Like, your brain just functions in a totally different manner than 90% of the population, which is so cool.
I remember going to an event, and I came back to the office and I said to my office manager, I guess at the time, I said, "Holy cow." I said, "You got to come with me. There's an event next weekend. You got to come with me." She's like, "What?" I said, "Just come with me." So I said, "We'll go for a nice dinner or whatever. Just, you need to come." So she's like, "Okay." So she comes to this event, and I said, "Check it out. This whole room is filled with people like me." I said, "I'm not crazy," because she kind of insinuated that maybe I was. And she looked around the room, and at the end of the day, she goes, I get that these are like your people, and I get that you say, you're not crazy, but she said, have you ever considered that maybe they're all crazy as well?
Mhm.
Yeah, she didn't have
Mhm.
a job anymore the following week, because I think it's because I finally found people that were like me, and I'm like, no, I'm not crazy. I have crazy ideas, but there's other people out there that are like me, and it's really cool to hang out with them.
Absolutely. And rewinding to something you said a little earlier, you love connecting with people, you love talking with people and solving the problem. So, when real estate was suggested to you, did you immediately know, like, this is what I want to devote my career path to? And what were the first few years like for you in building that portfolio up?
Well, they said that I was really good at sales. So, you know, different things that we did at the store, and that whole food thing made me think that, okay, well, maybe I'm really good at sales. They said, "Oh, you should sell cars, you should sell whatever." And when they said real estate, I thought, well, it sounded a little more glamorous. I mean, back then real estate was 75% men, mostly older people. Like, now you'll see a trend of younger people getting into real estate, but often real estate was a second career choice,
Hmm.
right? It was something you did after you were a school teacher. Or there was a lot of that happening back then. Um, so I got into real estate. It's funny, because I was on my 18th birthday. I had to borrow my sister's credit card in order to register for the course, because they wouldn't take cash. So I worked really hard, but I had saved a lot of money, but I wasn't able to register for the course. So that was always kind of funny, that here I am helping people make these massive decisions, and I wasn't, I didn't even have a credit card at the time. Um, so the first year was great. The real estate market in 1988, so we'll go way back in date, but it was really a great market. And then it changed. It changed in 1989. It changed dramatically. The interest rates, everything, prices, things had slowed down. So I had a pretty good run. I had some pretty good mentors, and I just ran around helping the agents, so then they would help me. So, I didn't expect anything from anyone. I showed up giving to them, and that just was reciprocal. It's like, hey, do you need any help with anything? Can I put up your open house signs, and will you allow me to come to the open house? And they're like, sure. I mean, there was an agent in the office I used to, if he was staying late, I would stay late because I knew he'd be doing up an offer, and the secretary at the front desk wasn't there to type it up. So I would just be offering all the time to type it up for him. And I learned so much from him and how he structured. And yeah, it took me probably, I would say, 5-6 years before I realized that I was really good. It wasn't selling the way my mind believed, it was solving problems.
Mm-hmm.
And then once I really aligned with that, because people would say, oh my gosh, you're such a great salesperson. And I had some limiting beliefs around that word that I had to get rid of. Because I didn't feel that I was selling anyone. But in the end, of course, I'm selling people, but I'm selling them on solutions. I'm not making anybody doing anything that's not in their best interest. I'm giving them options.
It sounds like you were quite the sponge in those first few years, like literally just looking around, asking for mentorship, learning by osmosis, doing whatever it took to succeed. Do you believe that those were some of the early success factors in building the career that you have today? What else was it about you that was able to continue to progress and grow to where you are today?
Again, it's funny because I didn't expect anything from anyone. I just saw that they had problems and I was solving them as well. I just ran around helping people. I cared about them. I wanted to help them. And by doing that, I was learning at the same time. There was never a moment where I'm like, hey, I want to learn how to do this. I'm going to go ask this person to teach me. It was like, hey, that person needs some help. And by being around them and helping them, they would then pour into me because I was adding value, and they appreciated it.
Mm-hmm. So from a young 20-something, someone who was hungry to learn, who was doing whatever it took to just absorb the wisdom of agents who have gone before you, how did you then become one of Canada's top real estate agents? Like, let's give a quick synopsis of what the journey looked like for you.
It's funny because I often get like, oh, you learn from other people, how to be the best at things. Well, I also learned what I never wanted to be. I also learned how some people are self-serving sometimes, and they do things for themselves. And it has to be that alignment piece still, right? You need to be aligned with who you are, what you want to offer, what you want to, like when you're in alignment, everything goes better. So for me, it's always been that giving piece. And then the more people you help, the more people, it just grows. If you take care of people, people take care of you. And then I think for me, training as far as knowledge, like I love to attend different courses. Like I'm a huge Tony Robbins fan. I've been going to Tony Robbins since 1991. John Maxwell, there's a Philip McKernan I love. Gary Keller is a mentor of mine at Keller Williams. I meet with him like 4 times a year. So I believe that all that education, all those pieces made a big difference. So at some point I met somebody else that was doing 250 transactions in a small town. And I went, well, if she can do it, now I can do it, right? What the mind can conceive and believe it can achieve. So there's lots of cool things out there, but if you don't believe you can make it happen, then you're not going to. So like my area is a population of 20,000 people, and we average 400 transactions a year out of 20,000 people, which is pretty big deal when, other agents are in, Oakville or Burlington, locations that have higher price points, Toronto as well. I mean, you can do less deals at a higher price range to achieve those awards in those areas. But it's funny, it was never about the awards.
Mm-hmm.
for me. I mean, I like being the best at whatever it is that I'm doing. Like if I'm not really good at it, I don't, enjoy it as much, because I like to give something my all and give it my best. And sure, I guess achieving that result goes hand in hand with that.
Yeah. That is so cool, because something that you said was, if she can do it or if they can do it, I can do it. And it sounds like you just needed a couple people to kind of show you what was possible in this industry. And that set you up to be able to chase these goals without limiting beliefs of, my town is too small, or I'm going to need to move to the big city if I ever want to be successful like other real estate agents. So how much did mindset and just maintaining that belief that anything is possible, how much has that played into your success?
Oh, that's massive. I believe we all have limiting beliefs. Like I always say, if you look at this is a pen. Well, it's a pen because somebody taught me that it was a pen. In French, it's a plume because somebody taught me that.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe you're always rewiring your thinking, your programming of what things mean, um, so that you are able to achieve those visions. The industry average is to sell 4 properties a year. That's the average of all real estate agents, sell 4 properties in an entire year. I've averaged over 100 sales personally for like decades. So if I would have listened to what the industry average is, I'd be doing 4 properties a year, because that's the average. Well, first of all, I don't want to be average. So what does that mean? I'm going to do 5 or 6 or maybe 10 because that's not average? No, I believe in thinking even bigger. Whatever you can think of and you believe, you can achieve.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it sounds like you adopted exponential thinking. It's not just like, oh, I want to be slightly above average. It's like, what can I actually do? Like, what is my potential? Is it 100 properties? Could I do 200 properties? And you actually cracked open a new portal in your brain that thought, yeah, okay, let's go do it, which is absolutely crazy.
Well, and it was always helping people, like we always did, people would count how much money they made or whatever, and we always had a board up and their little houses, and it's like we would put the person's name in because it's how many families we helped. And for some people maybe that sounds cheesy, whatever, but it wasn't. And when you're doing a really great job for people, I mean, this is pre-internet. You think like people can put you out of business pretty quickly if it goes around that you don't treat people well.
Mm-hmm.
So you're taking care of these people, and then it's it's your client's children, it's your client's best friend. It's like the referral business has always been somewhere around that 75 to 80% return and repeat clients. So when you're getting that kind of business happening, you don't want to turn anyone down, and you want to help them all. So that helps you to grow too, right? Again, when you're in alignment with who you are, I don't know, the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, comes and supports that.
Mm-hmm. And I think the way you're describing the average real estate agent is actually very relatable to a lot of business owners. It's like they feel like they're just kind of coasting. It's like, I have big goals. I know that there's a lot of potential in this line of work. But when they look at their numbers, when they look at how many clients they're helping, how many customers they're serving, they're like, this is a really mediocre number. So I'm curious, for somebody who is in that state right now, who's just like ready for their big leap, but it's not happening, what would be some of the advice you would give them based on your own experience to start moving into that exponential growth territory?
I believe it begins with you need to find proof, right? Like if you want to start running, I did this. If you want to start running, and you've never run before, which is where I was at, I'm like, okay, can somebody at the time in their 40s start running? Like, is it too late? Like you get into all that mindset. So then I went on the internet and I did all this, research. And then I found this lady that was in her early 70s running marathons. Well, if a 7-year-old woman can run marathons and she didn't do it all her life, then I can convince my mind to believe it. If my mind believes it, now it's possible. if you're running around trying to do something and your mind doesn't believe you can do it, the town's too small, the this, the that, whatever it is that you believe that's preventing you from achieving it, you need to stop and you need to go find proof, or you need to change what it is that you're trying to do. Right? People say, oh, I'm unlucky. Well, if you're unlucky, then if that's what you believe, you're gonna end up being unlucky. I happen to believe I'm one of the luckiest people I've ever met. Right? If it rains or it's sunny, like whatever the weather does, we had a golf charity fundraiser on Friday. It drizzled out. Well, as soon as it stopped, so people are like, oh, it's raining. That's too bad. Well, as soon as the sun started to come out, it got really hot. And then it started to drizzle, and the drizzle felt really good. It was actually a great day, and the weather was perfect. Mm-hmm. So I think it's just how you look at things, and coming from a place of gratitude and appreciation will also make a difference with all of that. Mm-hmm. And I mean, if you're looking for reasons to believe that you can achieve something, like if you're looking to start out or grow or whatever, if you're looking for reasons why you can't, then that's the first place to start. If you believe you can't, I mean, that's what's going to happen. But why do you believe that? What's limiting you? What's your mindset? One of my coaches said, I thought it was great. She said, why people don't achieve their goals? And I said, because they don't go after them. They don't take action. And she said, well, one, they don't know what they want. And two, it's not a must. Mm-hmm. And I said, because action, to me, the first thing is like, oh, taking action, but you can take a whole bunch of action, but are you taking the right action? And is it a must? Like, do you really want to achieve this goal, or is it just something that you put out there?
Mm-hmm. So for you, you're someone who has accomplished a lot. Like even just looking at your bio, it's author, speaker, realtor, investor, leader, entrepreneur, self-made millionaire. Do you have a formal goal setting practice? Do you have rituals where you sit down and ask, like, what are my goals for the next year, 5 years, 10 years? How are you accomplishing so much? How are you continually pushing your own boundary, reaching for more, getting 1% better? Share some of your secrets with us.
Vision board for sure. And I have one up there.
Awesome. I love seeing that.
Yeah, I do my vision board every year. I cannot start the new year January 1st without it. It either starts with a word that I'm focused on, or, this is what I want to accomplish. And then I get into, I write a goal. So at the top, it's a goal, and I make it a SMART goal. Like if you Google SMART, right, what it needs to be. And then what I do is I focus on the why. Mm-hmm. So often when I write a goal, my brain first automatically goes to how. How am I going to achieve this? How? And it doesn't really, it sounds weird, but it doesn't have any business figuring out how. You start with why. Why do you want to achieve this? What empowers you? And then once you write down the why and you have more clarity, I mean, I always laugh, I don't know if you've heard this, but it's, if your why doesn't make you cry, it's not your why. Like it's got to stir something up, right? So if it really stirs something up, and then what you do is you take your favorite song, you get energized about something, I jump up and down. In Tony Robbins' world, we make our move, right? Mm-hmm. We get into peak state. And then I play this song and I just write all the ways that I could possibly achieve that goal. So all the hows. And you don't judge them, just write out a whole bunch of ideas. And once you write down all those ideas, what I like to do is take 3, and we call them 3 to thrive. So what are the 3 things that I can implement today that will help me get to my goal? And then it's just revisiting them like every single day.
That is so cool. I need to go back and re-listen to that and implement that exact practice. But I can tell how passionate you are about it. And I think it's so important in goal setting, in vision boarding, that you find a way that just feels so exciting. Like you put on the right music, you have some rituals and routines built into your year or built into your month, and it just becomes part of who you are and how you continue to look at your life and create your best life and make sure that you're not falling stagnant.
Well, and it's funny. I mean, even a vision board is such a simple thing, but I mean, I remember going back, many, many years ago, and you do a vision board, and, a year later or 2 years later, even if you weren't doing the practice of looking at it every single day, if you go back and look at it, you're like, whoa, that's weird. I've done these 5 things on there. Mm-hmm. I think, like, whenever I said the 2 reasons why people fail is, 1, they don't know what they want. So getting clear with what you want and putting it into a vision board just tells your mind like, hey, these are things that you'd like to do. Let's make them happen. And
Mm-hmm.
then I don't know, there's all those moments that we call coincidences.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I can't believe, like the lady in Fiji. I wanted to go to Fiji for 12 years. And because of meeting Blake, I met this lady at the TED Talk who then told me she lived in Fiji and I happened to be going there. And she was living her dream in Fiji. She had bought this really cool house and she was doing like a bed and breakfast in it and doing retreats. And I thought, wow, like you never know where you're going to meet somebody and you never know what that connection is going to be. But when you're aware of it, it just, you attract it. It's kind of like when you buy a new vehicle and then you start noticing that vehicle everywhere. Well,
Mm-hmm.
if you put it out there that this is something that you want or you want to achieve, it's going to show up.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of achievements, I'm curious, what have been some of the career milestones that you've felt super proud of over the past few decades? Like, what have been some of those things that you've accomplished, or maybe they're like micro moments that you've just felt so good about, so proud, and that you would call a milestone?
Oh, there's so many of them. It's funny, but it I guess it goes back to the beginning. I never really thought of it. It's the achievement through others. It's when others achieve what they were looking for. Like I remember hiring this one person and getting them into real estate, and they were used to making 25, $30,000 a year at the time. And I'll never forget the day that they had hit $100,000. I mean, they came to see me. They were crying. They couldn't speak. They just kept showing me the stub, their pay stub, and how it had passed over that. And it was like I never even imagined I would be a person that would achieve this. And I kept pushing. I said, "What do you mean a person? Like what kind of person?" And then she blurted out, "I never thought I'd be smart enough to ever make this kind of money. I was never good in school. I said, you're a people person. You care about people, and that's how it shows up for you." Um, that was huge. I remember the first time somebody in my office sold 100 properties in a year because they wanted to beat me because they believed it, right? And I just thought it was really cool that they had that goal and that they achieved it. Somebody buying their first house, they never ever thought that they could buy a home, and just listening and the coaching and that opportunity was great. I can think of every single one of people in my world when they achieve something that they would share with me what their goals are. Like we have a wall with everybody's vision board on it because then everybody sees it and everybody can help each other.
Yeah.
And I remember almost every single one of them. And same with kids. I have 4 children, single mom, was able to leverage my career to be able to financially put them through school. So, being able to do that was our proud moments, and helping them, achieve their goals and their dreams. All of that um, was huge. I think also when I got separated and the whole starting over thing, the first investment property I bought on my own. I mean, that was 10 years ago. I paid $194,000 for a detached home in Barrie. That's probably worth 750, 800 now.
Gosh.
Yeah. And, I bought it. It was in really rough shape. I arranged to have it renovated. I did everything that I wanted to do to it. And just having the courage to take on something like that, because it was pretty trashed, was a big deal. I was proud of that. I mean, I bought an apartment building, a 10-plex that was, needles this deep in one of the apartments. Like we had to shovel them out. And just seeing that come to fruition and transforming not only the building, but the neighborhood. Like the neighbors were so excited to see us get rid of, that situation, and attract new tenants into the neighborhood, and just change the dynamics of their lifestyle and impact them. So again, I guess there's just a trend of caring for other people.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, congratulations on all those milestones. I got chills listening to those. And I think you act as an expander for so many people, like just sharing your story and the fact that you've been able to accomplish so much under your unique circumstances in life. It's really cool for someone to listen to this and say, you know what, maybe that's possible for me too. So I really admire you for sharing that and for celebrating all those accomplishments with us. I know one of the other things that you're very passionate about too is financial freedom. I'm curious if you can share a little bit more about what financial freedom means to you and why this topic lights you up so much.
So the two things that I'm very excited about is definitely the real estate industry, because it's provided so much for my family. So I'm always wanting to give back and, elevate the industry, because, I believe some people have perhaps experienced something unfortunate in their sale or purchase, or maybe it didn't go according to plan. And there's just so many amazing real estate agents out there that'll give so much. Like, I always joke, right? It's the little extras. I remember on a Thanksgiving sitting on folding chairs and a folding table because my dining room set and my living room furniture was all in a home that we needed to stage it back then. Like,
Yep.
it's always about going that extra mile and taking care of the situation. So the industry is I'm very, very passionate about the industry. And the other thing is that financial freedom piece. So, I think that when people think of financial freedom, they think of, a Lamborghini in the driveway with a 4-car garage and this monster house and multiple homes in different areas and maybe even a private jet. I hear private jet thrown around a lot over the last couple of years. And it doesn't need to start there. I mean, sure, if that's your goal, I mean, I'll believe it and I'm going to be your biggest cheerleader and I'll show you what I see on how you could achieve it. But I believe it starts with, what if you could replace your income today? Like, how much money do you need today to live today, to put food on the table, a roof over your head, and make that happen? And then you start by focusing on that amount of money. If it's $2,000 a month, if it's $4,000 a month, if it's 8,000, whatever that number is. So your goal is to, create and amass an amount of money, or to buy properties that'll cash flow, whatever it is, to come up with a plan that's going to replace that amount of money you need every month, so that you can have the confidence to pivot or change or pursue. Like, we all have things that light us up, people we want to help, passion projects, or maybe we want to create something, or we want to do something that may not be aligned with the job, right? Like, what's the job we do that we go, right? I always say we exchange 9 to 5 to pay our bills, and from after 5 to 9 is the time to create your empire or to pursue your passion. So how can you do that? And then once you figure out what you need for today, then it's figuring out, what do I need for tomorrow? So once you have today taken care of, you can do whatever you want. And then you start thinking about, well, what am I going to need for tomorrow? What's it going to look like when I mean, most people I know that are very successful, if you mention the word retired to them, they're thinking, well, I don't want to retire. I love what I do. No, you're a workaholic, right? You're finding purpose and meaning in what you do, but what else lights you up? What other impact could you make? I mean, if you're brilliant at running a business, like, what could you do in the world? What change can you make? Mm-hmm. So then it's like, okay, well, what's tomorrow look like? And then how much money do I need to retire? What does that look like? And then how much to last? Now, to last could be, we have conversations with people, like older people in their home, and they're talking about not being able to move into, a retirement home now because, by the time they sell their house, with how much money they have, they got to stay 4 or 5 more years so that they can afford that retirement home. And I think, oh, that's so sad. Maybe one of them is deteriorating in health. That's why they had us in. And what if they were surrounded by a community that would help with that? And then they could go do, like, the person that is healthy can still go do things that are fun because someone else can take care of the person that needs a little more assistance. Mm-hmm. Or I see families where one's in one home and one's in another home, or the cost to carry both is just so high. So I'm thinking we need to plan for that. And then there's also generational wealth. So to last can also mean, like, what are you leaving for the next generation? What kind of head start are you providing them with? What drives me crazy right now is all I hear is people saying, oh, I don't know how my kids are ever going to buy a house. Like, they'll never be able to afford it. Well, keep telling them that. And what are they going to believe? Mm-hmm. 10, you'll never be able to buy a house. Same kind of programming happening, mm-hmm. right? You need to So when it comes to financial freedom, it really is just giving you that opportunity to make choices. Can you create that amount of money that replaces your income and then later on sets you up for those other levels so that you can just live your best life, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be the Ferrari life. It can be, making a contribution or having time to share your mindset, or, having time to write a book and share what you want to with the rest of the world and make that impact.
So awesome. And yeah, I kind of giggle when you say like the image of the person on YouTube with the Ferrari saying, I've achieved financial freedom. And so often I watch that and I'm like, that is not what I aspire to. But like, I get what they are trying to portray here. But I think it's so important to always check in with ourselves. Like, what would our definition of financial freedom be? And what is that amount of money? And what is the feeling in your lifestyle when you achieve that? And it doesn't have to look like anybody else's version of it, which is a really important reminder. I know you wrote a book called Freedom to Live Your Best Life: Innovative Ways to Build Wealth Through Real Estate Investing. Why did you write this book? Who did you write it for? It looks amazing and I can't wait to dive into it. I would love to hear a little bit more about why you felt you needed to bring this second book to life.
So kind of funny. The first book was, I just have this amazing friend, Donna Beach, who's brilliant in real estate. She was at a point where she helped take care of her mom over a couple of years, and then her mom passed. And during that 2 years, she felt a little disconnected from real estate and didn't know what she wanted to do the same. Like, what kind of empire or team or what did she want to do? And I said, oh, you have so much knowledge. Like, you're just such a wealth of knowledge. You need to share this. So we ended up co-authoring a book, like Truly Winning in Real Estate. And it was basically everything I wish somebody would have told me when I got into real estate. And she felt the same, and we wrote the book together. And then after writing that book, there was just this part of me that while we were writing it, because I never really thought I'd be someone that wrote a book, it just wasn't on my radar. And I don't know, I laugh. I say, I want to share stuff that, if I'm willing to grab somebody by the shoulders and shake them to tell them something, then that's something that needs to be shared with other people. Like, it's something inside of me that needs to come out and share, and the impact it can make. Like I said, the whole, I'll never be able to buy a house. My children will never be able to buy a house. Wrong. But if you have that mindset, that's going to be, your lifestyle. So for me, writing the book had a lot to do with just sharing a lot of the stories that have happened to my clients. I'll get people to say, oh, well, I don't want tenants. Okay, there's like 3 or 4 chapters in here on investing in real estate without tenants. Okay, what's your next thing? Oh, I don't want to have a property where I'm worried about, the tenants not paying. Well, here's a solution for that. I want to own a cottage. Okay, well, go do this. So there's just so many different options out there that I wanted to share them with everybody and say, like, just like we talked about that alignment piece, like, what aligns with you? Which story in the book you go, holy cow, that's like what I would like to do. For instance, buying the house that you're going to rent to your parents, because your parents are going to get to a point where, maybe they live on the water, they live on a farm, it's too much work, they're talking about moving in town. What if you bought the house that they're going to rent? Right? Like, obviously they're going to pay you. Right? It's not the same as some stranger. So what if you created that opportunity? And maybe you're going to read that and go, holy cow, that's my situation. I resonate with that. That's a different way to invest versus, these cap rates and return on investment and all these numbers that just, kind of go over some people's head. It's just not what they focus on. So it's all the different ways that you can make that happen. And that's why I wrote the book. I wanted to share.
Amazing. Sounds like you're kind of giving away your playbook to success and sharing everything you've learned in this condensed little manual and a lot of the insider secrets on what is possible for you if you do choose to get into real estate investing.
Yeah, and it doesn't, like I said, it's what I like about the book, and especially in the market right now, because the market has shifted and it's different than what it was. There's just ways in the book where you can, here's all the, there's a strategy called BRRRR, where you buy it, you renovate it, you rent it, you refinance, and then you redo it all over again. And yeah, that's a common way over the last 5 years that a lot of people invested. Well, right now it's not working quite the same because the interest rates are higher.
Yeah.
So, maybe that's not working, but here are some other ideas that would work. Or, like I said, it's very, I've attempted to make it as personalized as possible. I mean, I always say each client has their own set of needs or problems that need solutions. So it's getting to know each individual person, but at least this is going to resonate with different people. And they're all real stories. I mean, obviously I've changed names and stuff, but they're all real stories of clients and the outcomes that they had and what could have worked out, sometimes what didn't work out, so that they can relate.
So incredible.
So
And
it's a
yeah,
big
well,
book.
I
Puts
was
in
gonna
your
say it looks pretty thick, and yeah, it might take us, a couple weeks to get through, but well worth it. And I'll definitely link the Amazon link in the show notes to where everybody can purchase it. Lorraine, this has been so insightful. I feel like we could chat forever. Where can people connect with you? Do you want to drop your Instagram, your website? What's the best spot for somebody who's super intrigued from this conversation and they're like, I need to find Lorraine online?
So I'm kind of crazy that way. I'll give out my personal email. It's lj@teamjordan.ca. And even my cell, 705-528-4207. You can text me. Social, they have me as Lorraine P. Jordan. So Facebook, Instagram, all that kind of stuff. We're there. Pretty easy to find. But yeah, reach out. I want to hear this plan that you have for living your life even bigger. And like I always tell everyone, I'll be your biggest fan. I'll believe in it. Just show me what you want to do, and let's figure out how to make it happen.
Oh, I love that. Such a great spot to end today. Thank you for your contagious energy and excitement and just the realness that you bring to what it took to get here and just how much joy and enthusiasm you still have for what you've created. So I think this has been so enlightening and so enjoyable. So thank you, Lorraine, and we wish you all of the best.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.